Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Guild Wars 2 video with me, Sherman. Today guys, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, where I come from, and what I plan on doing with my channel going forward, and what kind of content I plan on doing for it. So first off, a little bit about myself. I am an avid role player. I role play tabletop games like D&D, Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, Star Trek, whatever, Star Wars, you name it. I'll play it. I love to roleplay. But when it comes to MMOs, I still like to roleplay, but I like to roleplay in a sense that's more like making a character that fits the the but also plays with a lot of strengths and weaknesses. Strengths that alleviate my playability, and weaknesses that I just can't play to the same skill level as others. Um, there's times where I do want to do the more challenging group content, and I will do it. But I understand that when I do it, I'm gonna be in a group scenario. So a lot of times, what I do with my character builds is or my characters, is I make them to work to a certain, context, work to be a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. And that's one of the things I love about Elder Scrolls and Guild Wars 2, is they're so flexible in what they let you do, that you can play the games in a lot of different ways. And even though, like, I might play a tank with a two-handed sword versus a sword and shield in Elder Scrolls, it doesn't mean I don't know how to tank. I know how to tank with that playstyle because I taught myself how to do it and I mastered it. And the same thing with playing Guild Wars 2. When I make a character, I play it to its extent, the way I feel works best for me. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't have my character to work set up to work in group play. A lot of times I play kind of like a support damage dealer. I know, sounds weird, but that's the way I play. Or sometimes I'll play a character that's like tanky, so they have high, toughness and high vitality, high power, but they lack in other areas. But it doesn't mean that I don't have access to do things like put out boons or put out good damage numbers. It's just a play style. And I think that's where there's this misconception with people. And I'm going to bring this up because I want to talk about this. I think this was really important, and this was a great subject that these people brought up. But Mighty Teapot here recently did a video where he talked about the meta and their interpretation of it. And he hit on some points that I felt was right on. But I think what they're missing is, and this is just because of what they see and what they do, that they don't see the different perspectives of every player. And this is a misconception that a lot of people have within MMO communities. Is, yes, casuals want to do hardcore. Casuals want to do the more challenging group content, but they don't have the time, the experience, or the physical capabilities to play at the levels some do. Take me, for example. I am a content creator. I love to talk about video games. I love talking about MMOs especially. I love to talk about games that I enjoy playing. Now, I know I do not have the physical capabilities of playing at the same level he does, like Mighty Teapot himself. And it's not because I'm inexperienced. It's because I physically cannot do it at all. Can play to that level. Now, what I can do is I can play to my level of skill. Now, I do put in time. Trust me, I'm putting in a lot of time in these games to practice and become a better player and learn things. But at the same time, I know physically I can't do it. Physically, my body will say no. And that's because I do, in real life, have a physical condition that makes it harder for me to play at the same level. Does it bother me that I can't play to the same level as others? No. But I know there has to be a place that I can fit in to those kind of groups. And this is where that comes, like my mentality comes from, is I know that I can play to the same, in that same content. I just don't have the capabilities to play to their level. So what I do is I look at things when people talk about things like the meta. I look at the meta, and then I find ways to take the meta and convert it into a play style that fits my needs. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, but this is all about you. But hear me out. When I say my needs, my playability, then I look at how can I play it in a group, and then I build the things into my character that makes my characters work in a group scenario by looking at the specialization lines and seeing what would work for that setting. And then I build the character around that. Then I look at the weapons and say, okay, which ones would work best with my capabilities? And then I do that as well. And this is how I come up with a lot of builds like I did in Elder Scrolls, is I would look at the tool sets that the game gives you. The gear, the skills, the passives, and the traits and enchants. And just like Guild Wars, it would be like, I would look at the gear sets that are available for me to use. And no offense to anyone, I just find Celestial to be like that all around. So I use that a lot with a lot of my characters, because it's all around. I can play a lot of different roles with different characters. I'm not restricted to any one role, and it really just comes down to that playability. Then, if I'm needed for a role, a specific role, like say support, I can equip the tools necessary to play support, because the gear set gives me that capability. I can also change my ruins out if I need to. I really want to get some legendary ruins. Those things look wicked, by the way. Because then I could change my ruins to the needs of the group, and change my sigils to the needs of the group for that particular role. And this is where I think a lot of people don't understand. And I think this is why also in another video they did where they were talking about group play, and they were talking about that, like, how do you get the casuals and the hardcore to work together? And I think this is where they also misinterpret a lot of things, or misunderstand a lot of things, is there's people who want to play to that, play the harder content and be a tryhard, but they don't have the skill, they don't have the understanding, so they watch people like them to learn, and then they incorporate that stuff, that information, into their own play style, so that they can play to the same degree as them, but on their level. So that this way, like when I hear people say things like the Spellbreaker's a bad thing to play because it's not as good as this X, Y, and Z. The Spellbreaker's a great specialization if you know how to play it, but not only if you know how to play it, but it can play a lot of different roles pretty good. Now, I'm not going to say it's great at any one, like anything other than like maybe damage dealing, and even then it's kind of questionable in the meta. But somebody who wants to play that way doesn't have a definitive guide or thing that can teach them or make them understand how to make that work for them. And this is where that that discussion about the meta becomes convoluted, because you have on one side you have the tryhards who believe the meta is the only way, and then you have people who play the meta because it's just that damn good, and then you have those who play other things that mimic what the meta does, but in a different way. And so you have a lot of different things in there. Well, here's the thing you have to understand about meta, and that's just the word, the understanding of it. And that's because I say the meta is convoluted. It's everybody has their own interpretation, but meta means most effective tactic available. Now, you got to remember, a tactic is a group composition going into an environment to take on that environment. When you say available, it's what you have available. So let's say you're doing a raid, one of the raid wings in this game. If you want specifics, you put out in looking for group these specifics. But if you don't want specifics, you just want to do the raid, you just put out, hey, I want to do this raid. Who wants to join? And then you have to work with what you have. So in every scenario, there is always going to be a most effective tactic available. So when people talk about the meta, there's a meta for everything, and there's always going to be a best for every kind of combination. There isn't going to be one that rules them all, because not everyone can play to the same level as somebody else. And this is where you get that misconception of play. You have the elitist assholes who want to try and take over the end game and make it to where they're the only ones playing it because they want everyone else playing the same. Not everyone can. So you have, and then you have the casuals who want to be at that level but can't because they don't either have the time, they don't have the physical capabilities, or they just don't have the understanding. So here's a good way to look at ways to fix that and alleviate that problem. One, show them how to play to their strengths and weaknesses. That means show them, like, what's going to be best for you would be something like this, and maybe do this with it if that's what you want to play. And it's the same thing. Like when I hear people say, well, this specialization is not any good, or this isn't any good, or this is any good. Everything has its place. Everything might not have its strengths in a meta, but it has its strengths in a meta somewhere. Because it's what's available, and there's going to be a tactic that works best, and it's going to be the most effective you can do. So there's always going to be a meta that works in any scenario. It's finding the right setup for your group and everyone's playstyle to make it work. So when I hear people say, well, I hate those people that say, oh, I play my way because it works best for me. And they're like, oh, they don't care about group play. No, they do care about group play. They just don't ever get to play in groups because everyone's always misunderstanding their mentality about it or their understanding of how they play. It's like when somebody asked me a long while back when I was playing this game, why are you running clerics on your guardian? Well, I run clerics on my guardian because I like to play support. But at the same time, when I'm not playing support, I like to have the capability of doing damage. And it gave me the ability to do that. And then they were like, yeah, but it's going to make you really tanky. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was actually thinking about using this other set that's similar to clerics, but it's like it gives you vitality instead. Because then I'd be more survivable to bring people up when they go down in that supportive nature. And they were like, yeah, but it doesn't fit. And I said, I know, the meta. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, it's not meant to fit in the meta. It's meant to work with the meta. Because I can't play to your level. I'm not that skilled of a player. And at the time, I could say that. But now, I am skilled enough to play at that level. I'm just not capable of doing it. And I know this, but I still want to do that content. And this is, again, it brings me back to the subject at hand of what I would like to do content-wise is to discuss those different things and teach people the understandings of the game. Not tell them what's best, but to tell them, hey, here's an option in what you can play, and this can help you be set up for that play style. and then teach them, the sigils, and that's another thing. When I hear people say, "Well, this gear set's bad," well, it's bad for your meta, which is understandable. But for somebody else who's looking to get into the game and wants to get a greater understanding of how to play a certain role, but doesn't have the time or the capabilities, that set might actually be really good for them. And that's where a lot of people misinterpret these games, because they see a lot of gear sets and they see a lot of enchants or the sigils and ruins and say, "Oh, these are horrible." Like Tempest. Take the Tempest one. It gives you a bunch of stats and a bunch of condition duration, even though it's a support character. Like it's supposed to be a support character. But the Tempest isn't just support. They have the capabilities of doing condition damage and doing damage. In fact, Tempest does work best, in my opinion, in Celestial gear because it gives them all the stats. And then on top of that, they have these enchants that give them all the stats, and then the boon duration, or the condition duration. This allows them the capabilities of doing that because they're already getting a lot of expertise and stuff that boosts their boon duration already through those stats. So they get a lot of that. So they have good boon duration. They don't have good condition damage. They don't have good physical damage. So if you boost their condition duration, it gives them greater duration over their conditions, so they can do the support through healing and everything else while their damage is still consistent. And that's what you have to look at when it comes to people's play styles, people's ability to play, people's capability of play. And this is, again, that misinterpretation a lot of people have with that understanding. So how do you combine the two? You get the tryhards and the casuals together. You become more accepting. You become more understanding to people's needs. And you alleviate their lack of play with interest to play by showing them how they can play with this different stuff. If you did this, and if this happened, the game would change dramatically. Is it a perfect fix? No, because you're still going to have those elitist people who are just being assholes towards the people who don't play to their level, and that's fine, because those people will not change. But the rest of the community can be more accepting and learn to play with people of all different types, walks of life. And I think that is where you draw the boundary, is you show people how to play. You don't tell them what to play and what's best to play. You show them how they can play and what with. And I really hope that that's what I can bring to the community. Now, again, understand this. I'm not doing this to be negative against the meta. The meta's there. It's gonna be there. And it's a good thing it is there, because then you have other things that you can build, and it gives you some structure of what to use in different playstyles and different people's strengths and weaknesses. And that's what it should be. Helping people to understand the playstyle that works best for them. Even if they say, "Hey, I like this playstyle, I don't want to change," don't change it. Show them how to play it. You have that knowledge, you have that experience. So helping people to understand that is the most important. It's like me. The other day, running through Maguma Jungle on my elements list, and this guy's like, "Why don't you switch out of water and go to fire or anything?" I was like, "Okay," so I switched to fire. The whole group we were in wiped, like in seconds. And the person that was the commander was like, "Let them stay the role they are, because they were doing fine. You just wanted this thing dead instantly, and they weren't producing enough damage in your eyes. But they were keeping us alive to do it." One person. Was my heals extremely high or the best? No, but it was the fact that I was contributing to the aid of the group. I was bringing people up what went down. I was healing people as best I could, so we could continue the fight. There was a small group of us fighting this one. We were doing one of the heroics there, the heroic missions where you gotta fight. So usually it's some really challenging enemy, and there was only like 5 of us there, and when I switched to fire, literally everyone died. Like as soon as I switched over, there was no healing output. So no healing. I wasn't throwing boons and support like I was before, and so everyone died, and I felt bad because that was on me. You know, but at the same time, I understand where the other person was coming from. Like it would have been easier if I was doing more damage. The thing would have died a lot quicker. But at the same time, I was playing my strengths, not my weaknesses. And that's where, again, if you show people how to play to their strengths, they will enjoy it more, but also get a greater understanding of the game and its mechanics and everything because they have more time to learn those mechanics and to see those mechanics. They're not lying on the ground dead. But that's pretty much it. I mean, that's what I want to bring to the community is that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be doing a Let's Play here soon. I say Let's Play, but it's more of a playthrough from 1 to 80 with the character. And yes, I already have the racing class in mind. But I'm going to play through it, and while I do this, I'm going to discuss this kind of information. I'm going to talk about the stats and the specializations and the enchants, or not the enchants, the sigils that you put on your weapon and the runes you put in your armor. I'm going to talk about all this stuff as I get to certain points of the game where that is necessary to talk about, and explain this stuff in more detail so people have a greater understanding of where people come from and what there is in the game, because I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Like you can go look up guides on an Elementalist Tempest build, and they're going to tell you what stats to use, what gear set to use, what weapons to use, what armor to use, what specializations use, exactly how to have it set up for their ability of play, not yours. There. And they're going to expect you to already be at that level. Well, how are you supposed to know how it plays if you're just learning it? Doesn't make any sense, does it? And this is what I tell people. You can't teach somebody to swim by throwing them in the deepest part of the pool. You teach them to swim by having them learn how to swim. You don't just expect them to know how. You have to teach them. It's just like with anything. You can't expect a mechanic to fix a car if they've never done it. But if you teach them the basics of it and show them gradually how to do it and become better at it, they become better mechanics with time. It's the same thing like when I worked in different jobs. I'd go to a job and they'd be like, "Oh, we need you to do this, 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 and this." Well, there was things I didn't know, and I'd be like, "Well, how do I do this? I don't understand it." And they'd be like, "You'll figure it out." And then somebody would hear me say that and be like, "Hey, I'll show you." That person that showed me, I have more respect for than the person who said, "You'll learn with time." And that's where I think also this try hard, casual, whatever thing problem is you have too many people who expect people to be perfect and to be at their level because this person's in this area. Like when I first got to Maguma with my Elementalist, I knew Maguma, I knew the difficulty of it because I've already played through it with 3 different characters, but I didn't know how it would be on my Elementalist till I got there. And let me tell you, it was a completely different experience with my Elementalist than with my Dragon Hunter, Guardian, or with my Revenant, or with my Ranger, or my Engineer, or my Warrior, or any of them, because it's a different class. It has a different tool set of skills. So it didn't play the same. So I had to learn to play that character in that environment. And the way I found best was by playing my character as a support character. because anything I did, support was necessary. Any boss encounter needed was good to have support there. Any of the heroic encounters, having support was great, but it was something I knew I couldn't do by myself. So I would ask for help, and it was amazing the amount of community members that would show up when I'd say, "Hey, need help with this heroic," and then I'd get like the occasional message, "Where is that?" And I'd tell them where it was at, and they were like, "Okay, I'm on my way." And then all of a sudden, like 5 people would show up, and we would do it, and occasionally we'd get, like I said, that asshole that would sit there and be like, "Oh, you need to be doing more damage and less healing." But the thing is that my character, for my playability and understanding of that class, like I can play a damage dealer, I can play it as a healer, or as support, I can play it with what role I need, but I'm better at it with support. Taking me out of that playstyle and expecting me to play something else that I am not as skilled at is a bad idea. And it was proven. And that's my point. But that's pretty much it. I mean, what else can I say? I love to roleplay. That's why my character looks like this. This is why they use the fire and ice sword. That's why I use a hammer on the back bar, even though it's not the greatest, combination. It works for me in what I do. Now, is it the best in group composition? No, but if I need something else in group composition, I can get the tools necessary to do that, and then learn to do that. It takes time. It's not something I can instantly do, And again, that's what this is all about. It's about not what you can do, it's about learning to do. And I think that's where a lot of people misinterpret, again, this idea of like casuals want to do, but they're too lazy to do. There are lazy casuals, I'm not going to lie. But most of them will stick to the content that they enjoy doing, and won't venture into the more challenging group content. The ones who want to do the more challenging group content will express that. And they'll try to get into those groups, even without the experience. And they will try to do their best. Those people who want to get carried through stuff need to go do something else, because if you're going to be that lazy, you shouldn't be doing the content. Then that's my opinion. That's not, whatever. It's not me being an asshole. It's just me being honest. If you're going to be there just to get carried through the content, you need to do something else. Or you need to find a play style that'll fit into that content that help everyone else. And quit trying to get everyone else to do everything for you. I don't know what your issue is. I don't know. But I know this. You can't expect somebody to hold your hand through everything. You have to learn. And that's brings me back to this, like why I'm doing this and why I'm more interested in doing that than worrying about talking about a meta or what's best for the game or the community as a whole kind of thing. I'm more interested in helping the individuals and helping everyone work together. Not be against each other, but to work together. And if you don't agree with my views, that's on you, not me. I can't change your views. But if you're interested in wanting to do more, come hang out with me sometime. Be more than happy to sit and talk. I will be streaming some content, like my progression with that character. But I will primarily be doing a lot of that stuff through video, and only streaming like every once in a while that character's progression. And that's mainly so I can answer some questions that people might have. Other than that, like so I can have more personal communication with my viewers. But other than that, I won't be streaming a lot until I can get a better setup to do that. Right now, I don't have the greatest setup, I'm not going to lie. But luckily enough, there's some great tools out there that might help me with that. You never know. But I hope you guys do enjoy the content to come. And if you are interested in playing Guild Wars 2, don't think it's dated and old. It's not. It's actually quite good for its age. And it's doing really well. There is a lot of people playing this game. And it's free to play right now. You get 2 character slots and you get access to both, or everything the main game has to offer. And if you jump in now, you can catch some of the Living World 1 stuff for free. And then going forward, you can decide if you like it. Because I am not going to make that decision for you. It's not for me to decide if the game's good for you. You have to try it yourself. So if you're a person who watches my channel, is interested in Guild Wars 2, go check it out. Check the link in the description. It'll take you to the website where you can download the game, or you can download it on Steam and play it through Steam. It's really up to you. I prefer to play through the actual launcher because, you know, it's official. But yeah, go check the game out. You might be surprised. Now, you won't have access to the Revenant class. This only comes with Heart of Thorns. And if you want it, you can buy the Path of Fire of Heart of Thorns together for $39.99, I think it is, or $29.99, something like that. But you can buy it, and it's not too bad. And then it gives you even more character slots, and it gives you access to more content. And then, of course, if you buy into Dragons, it's the same price as 2 of those together. Now, I'm pretty sure when the next expansion comes out, they'll combine End of Dragons, Heart of Thorns, and Path of Fire all together into one price, and then you have to buy the next one, which is fine with me as well. I think that the way they have their game set up is amazing. It is buy to play, well, technically free to play for the base game, and then buy to play for everything else, and it's a lot of fun. So, you want to check it out? Check it out. It's quite enjoyable. Other than that, you guys know what's coming next. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. And if you do subscribe, I do suggest you click that notification bell and be notified when I post new videos. Other than that, thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.